Today, let's sew a zippered pouch perfect for toiletries or for medications. Welcome, I do sewing and DIY related content, and today we are sewing a little zipper pouch perfect for little toiletries, medications, things you may need when you're traveling. Now, I'm going to call this a first attempt at doing this. As you'll go through and as we see, I feel like this could be made so much better. So I'm actually using this more as like a first draft. It meets the needs that I needed for a little bag, but I know we can make it better, and I think that this could be a great next pattern to work on. So I would love your feedback. There is a poll on my channel, so if you would like to provide some, just let me know. The cat was also very involved in this project the entire time, so you'll see here multiple steps. Now for the supplies, you'll want 2 pieces of fabric for the lining that's around 10 inches by 7 inches, another piece for the pocket, which I did 10 by 6 inches, and then 2 pieces for the outside, which are also 10 by 7, and then I did a 10-inch zipper, and then I'm also adding some batting, which is the same size as the outside pieces, so the 10 by 7 for each side of the outer material. So the first step is I do want to quilt this lightly. For this, all I did was I took my batting and then just took that fabric that will be for the outside, and then I just drew a design. I'm going to keep this incredibly simple, and I'm just going to be doing an X pattern. I think that I definitely for that next phase could make this be a little bit nicer and a little bit more designed for it, and I think that I do want to add a little bit more quilting elements. But for what I needed for this little bag, this worked just doing that X pattern to hold the batting onto the material. So now that I have that done, I'm just going to go through and quilt both of these up. Once those are quilted, I'm now going to set these aside, and I'm going to be starting to work on the pocket that's going to go on the inside. So taking that piece that is 10 inches by 6 inches, I first am going to be pressing this out, and I'm going to be folding at the very top. I want to fold it down about an inch. So just folding this, pressing it, and making sure that that one piece just stays in place. As you can see, this is about an inch wide, so I'm just going to be folding that and then pressing it down so that it stays nice and flat. And then once I have this pressed, I am going to sort of unfold it and then just bring in that edge to where that folded edge is, and then fold it over again and press this down. That way I have a nice clean edge. There's no more of that raw edge for the pocket, and this will just kind of help it along. Now this is where stuffing really wanted to get involved, so she did sit on it for a little bit. I guess this is a different type of pressing, but once you get that done, you can go ahead, just pin this up, and then I am going to just take a seam right across. Now for my seam allowance for this, I made it slightly bigger. I made it about 5/8 of an inch. That way I would have a really nice top stitch. But I'm also thinking in the next round, maybe this is where we add some elastic just to make that pocket be a little bit more secure. So now I'm going to take one piece of the lining, so the piece that does not have a pocket, and then I'm going to be placing the pocket onto the lining, so the wrong side of the pocket is facing the right side of the lining, and just lay that on top. So now when you do this, you will notice that yours is probably a little bit lower than what mine is, and that is totally fine. So you can see here that this is what mine looks like, that 10 by 6. And then I'm just going to be pinning up the edges, and then go ahead and pin up about 2-3 spots in the middle to give yourself 3 pockets. So I put 3 pockets on mine, so I'm just going to be taking those 2 stitches along the edge, as well as 2 stitches along the middle to give myself new pockets. I'm not worrying about the bottom, as that's going to be closed up later on. So once all of that is complete, you have your 2 pieces of the outside, you have your 2 pieces of lining, and now we have our zipper, and it is time for us to add the zipper to the bag and really start to build it. So with your outside material facing up, you are then going to make like a zipper sandwich. So it's going to be the outer part of the bag, your zipper with the right side facing down towards the right side of your outer material, and then the lining. And so as you can see here, I'm just pinning all of this together, and then I'm going to be taking a seam to combine these. So for this, you have the right side of your lining facing the wrong side of the zipper, and then the right side of the outer part of your bag facing the right side of your zipper, and then just taking a seam right along there. So this is what it would look like, and now I'm just going to take a top stitch to hold all that in place and to help make sure that the lining of the bag doesn't get caught in the zipper in any way. For this top stitch, I did around 1/8 of an inch, so very close to the edge of the fabric, just to give it a nice clean seam. So here's what it looks like. It's looking really good. So now what it's time to do is just repeat all of those steps for the second side of the zipper. So I have my zipper here. I'm going to take my outer material and then the lining, just do that same process of kind of matching everything up and then just taking a seam right across. So now with this done, you can always do a little check. You should have those two pieces of your lining have the right sides matching, and the two pieces of the outer part of your fabric with the right sides matching, and you'll be able to see the outer portion of the zipper. This is another area though that when we do round two of this bag, I think I'm going to change, as I think I want all of it to be boxy, not just the bottom portion. So we'll have to look into that. So now I'm just going to go through and do that same top stitching step so that I can have the zipper portion be complete. So now it is time to really sew our bag together, really sort of like one of the last steps. First though, before you do this, always be sure you open your zipper at least halfway. So this allows it a little easier to turn when it comes time for that, but match the lining pieces with the outside of the bag pieces and just go all the way around and match everything up and pin it in place. Now for the lining, be sure to leave about a 2 to 3 inch gap. I denote that with those double pins that you can see on the right side. And then we're just going to go through and pin all of this up all the way around. So there is where my gap is. I'm going to sew all the way around, being sure to leave that gap open. And then I take a straight stitch, being sure to pivot at all of the corners. Be cautious when I go over the zipper, but normally my machine is able to go through that. And then once you have it all sewn up, what we're going to be doing is just adding those boxed corners. So I'm just going to be kind of bringing these two edges together for both the outside as well as the lining. So just pushing them together, and then you can see it kind of makes this like little box shape. And then I'm just going to be sewing right across about an inch, inch and a half down. I definitely think this part could be done a lot better. So again, for that second try I'm going to do later this summer, there'll be even more steps and more information on how to get those perfect box corners. Just be sure when you are doing box corners that you are backstitching at both the beginning and end so it's nice and secure. Then once you have those box corners sewn up, you can just go through and cut off any of that extra material, and then you're just going to turn this right side out. So for turning it right side out, just push the fabric through that opening that you made, and then it should come together pretty easily. So here's what my bag looks like. We do need to sew up the lining on the inside, but that's just a really easy little hand stitch. It's okay. I definitely could have done this a lot better, which is why I want to do a round two, but for the purposes that I needed today, I am able to easily use this. So I just took a hand seam right across that little stitch, and this is what the bag looked like. So I do have those 3 pockets on the inside, which turned out nicely, and then it is actually pretty roomy for other items. So I think that this is definitely a good sized bag. I'm really excited though to make this better, so let me know what you'd want to see. I'm thinking elastic pockets, maybe a zippered pocket, and then having more detail into the quilting. If you enjoy seeing these little zipper bag videos or want to make your own, let me know in the comments. Remember, round 2 will be coming out soon and it will have even more information. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what you want to see next. Thanks for watching.